It's Matthew here, and I'm happy to inform you all that 2021 is already looking like a much better year than 2020, thanks to some exciting new moonwatch releases from Omega that we're going to be talking about today. So if you guys will recall, just last month, Rolex released an update of their flagship model, the Submariner collection, by increasing the case diameter to 41 millimeters and changing the movement. So not really too big of an update there, but literally just this month in 2021, Omega has now released the new releases for their flagship model, which is of course, the iconic moonwatch. So I'll be talking about that in this video. As far as what is different from the previous generation, as well as what I think it means for the Omega catalog moving forward. All right, so first of all, let's talk about the movement, because I know that's a very hot topic of importance for any watch enthusiast to talk about. So this particular movement that's going to be in the update of the moonwatch is actually also Lemania based. So of course Lemania, older sort of manufacturer from many years ago, their architectures have been used in several brands' movements. For example, I can think of the Patek Philippe 5070G as actually one of the watches that has pretty much the same base caliber. So there's a lot of watches of different price points have this same base movement. But this update that Omega has made is actually called the 3861, which is updated from the 1861 from the previous generation. And the main differences with this model are that it has the METOS certification, so that would be the chronometer certification given by Omega. They actually own their own chronometer certification institute, so their own employees to vet the accuracy of the movement and improve everything. So this is actually the first time that the moonwatch has ever had this certification, which is kind of a long time coming. And then there's also the silicone hairspring, which adds anti-magnetism to the mix, so less of an effect if you're touching certain electronics, or if you touch a doorknob and it's magnetized, doesn't hurt your watch as much. There's also hacking. I know, right? That's, I'd say probably the Speedmaster moonwatch is probably one of the most expensive non-hacking movement watches on the markets, but now that has completely changed with them finally releasing a moonwatch that has hacking. And also, of course, it has a coaxial escapement, which is such a big thing with Omega, and increasing the longevity of their movements when they increased their manufacturer warranty to 5 years. I want to say a couple years ago that happened. So definitely really nice changes in the movement department. As far as the case that is going to be housing this handy-dandy Lemania-based movement, there aren't too many differences from the previous generation. The previous generation, the Hesalite crystal, which is a plastic-like material that was actually used on the original moonwatch that actually went to the moon. That one still has a solid case back with Speedmaster themed engraving. And then the sapphire version has the sapphire crystal case back, also known as the sapphire sandwich. So this is kind of like another sapphire sandwich model. So not much has changed there, although the Hesalite version is a little bit thinner. It's not clear whether or not the crystal is just less domed or if they just changed the case, but it is a little bit thinner, from 14.3 down to 13.58 millimeters in terms of the thickness. I think it's really great that they made it a little bit thinner. It was already versatile as a watch that you could use for a casual sort of setting as well as a formal setting, so it could be dressed up or dressed down because of the black dial, which is a more elegant sort of color. So even though it is technically a sports watch, you could get away with wearing it as a dress watch if you needed to. And also it's worth noting that the lug-to-lug distance, as well as the lug width and the diameter of the watch, 42 millimeters, all remain unchanged. So they've made a few high-tech changes to the watch overall, but nothing too extreme to where it completely changes the watch and alienates the people that like the previous generation. As far as the dial goes, Omega has made some subtle changes that us watch enthusiasts will definitely appreciate. And like I said, it doesn't completely change the whole atmosphere of the watch, but it is a little bit of something that watch enthusiasts like us can appreciate. And those things are, of course, the applied logo at 12 o'clock instead of the printed logo. On some watches, like dress watches, printed logos can look nice, but usually for sports watches, most of the time the standard is that you have the applied logo. And so they've added that to this particular generation of the moonwatch, as well as the step dial on the outside. It is slanting upward, so it gives it a little bit of depth, which is really nice. It kind of reminds me, if I had to compare it to something that Omega already has, I compare it to the Pan dial for their Constellation dress watches. But this, it kind of gives it some extra depth, which I think is needed for a watch of this price. So if anyone was complaining about Omega, banking too hard on their history and their heritage, then Omega has at least added some luxury features to the design of the watch to kind of appease those complaints. As far as bracelet changes go, Omega has changed the bracelet from a 3-link to a 5-link configuration for both the Hesalite and Sapphire. The main difference between the Hesalite and Sapphire as far as the bracelet goes is the kind of finishing. So the Hesalite has a completely brushed finish for every link, both sides, and also the Sapphire has actually the polished center links. So I would say that overall with this change, it makes both of them a little bit dressier than the 3-link option, because usually the rule is the more links that you have with the bracelet, the dressier it looks, with like the absolute dressiest kind of bracelet being like a Milanese bracelet, for example. So I think that it really kind of doubles down on that, what I previously mentioned about it being a dressy watch compared to other sports watches. And also another thing that's worth mentioning is the clasp. It's different now. Instead of having all that text, it just has the Omega logo with some vertical lines. I think the really great thing about this is that it kind of cuts down on the text, which, I feel like kind of gives it a little bit too much sort of detail on the clasp. And look at it this way, if you bought that really expensive Omega belt buckle, then now you can match it with your bracelet clasp. Now in terms of the price changes, the prices have been slightly increased from the previous generation. The Hesalite is actually going from $5,350 up to $6,300, and the Sapphire will be going from $6,350 to $7,150. So as far as why they made these changes, probably, I guess maybe international currencies, inflation always has something to do with it. But of course, these little refinements like the applied indexes and the new movement are probably also contributing to the price increase. And I feel like watch enthusiasts appreciate these things enough to pay an extra amount for them. And of course, I'm sure that after all the hype dies down over these new models, the pre-owned selections will probably go a little bit closer to the current pre-owned selections for the previous models. So I don't think there's anything to worry about in terms of like Omega's not being available at the store and it going $5,000 up in price. I don't think you really have to worry too much about that in terms of these particular moon watches. I think the main statement that Omega is making with these releases is that we still care about our history and heritage, but we know that to be a luxury brand, we have to make some refinements to our watches in order to make them competitive with the rest of the market. And I think Omega has done an excellent job of doing that. And Lamania is such a legendary name among watch enthusiasts and in watchmaking history in general. So definitely, I think this is they hit it out of the park with this, and I can't wait to get my hands on one to see it in person in the future. What do you guys think about the new Omega releases? Please let us know in the comments below. Also, if you liked the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to see our future releases on this channel. And also, as always, please stay safe as we get through the latter half of this pandemic. I know it's been really hard on everyone, but it seems like we're near the finish line on this, so let's just end strong and everything will be back to normal soon. So until the next time, guys, peace.